Hello everyone, my name is Sinead Jones and we are about to go live on Instagram. This is the repost that you'll see. So this is the recorded version of the live. We are about to go live in a couple of seconds. So give me a few and you will see it. Checking connection and we are live. Hello everyone, my name is Sinead Jones and this is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. We are here to talk about sex and sexuality and all that it means in various forms. Last week we talked about the LGBTQ plus community and what it means to be a member or affiliate or associate with that community. This week I decided to talk about a different set of letters. I decided to talk about BDSM. So if it's something that you are a practitioner of or something that you are interested in or have had a question about, hopefully you will find this particular live segment very interesting. And I want you to know that the way that this works, at least for me, is that I do a live session here. I record it because the stories only last for 24 hours. So if you don't get a chance to watch the whole thing now, you can always go back and watch it again, or you can go to YouTube, which I hope you've subscribed to the channel, and watch it there. So there is going to be some bonus content where we will talk about BDSM a little further on YouTube exclusively. So you'll see some very exclusive videos there after this. So BDSM, it's a four-letter word that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. The B stands for bondage, and bondage is the practice of consensually tying, binding, or constraining a partner for erotic stimulation and erotic purposes. So there are a number of different ways to restrain somebody, whether you're talking about the use of ropes or cuffs or even bondage tape. There are different ways to do it. And again, this is BDSM in general, so this is just a highlight and overview of BDSM. The D stands for discipline. It actually stands for a couple of things, but the first D stands for discipline, and it's when a top or a dominant establishes the rules for how a submissive will behave. And we'll talk about those specific terms a little later. The D can also stand for dominance, and the dominance is really the statutory factor and where the person who is of authority takes command in the relationship, where they are considered the superior in the relationship or in that particular BDSM relationship. The S can stand for submission. So the S also has double meanings. The S is for submissive, where you are the person that is the inferior in the relationship, and that inferior isn't intended to be a bad thing. It's just the role that you play at that particular time. It can also, I digress. When you stand for the DS, the dominance and submissive as a term as itself, that DS is where both partners take pleasure or erotic enjoyment from each other as being dominating or dominated. So there is a power play when it comes to a DS situation. Dominance and submissiveness doesn't have to necessarily be physical, and none of this actually has to be sexual. It can be a very mental, physical, non-sexual thing, but because we are KNKY and we talk about sex, most of the perspectives that we'll take will be from a sexual perspective, but just keep in mind that those things are not necessarily related directly to sexual overtures. The S can also stand for sadism. And a sadist is a person who enjoys inflicting pain onto others. Whereas the M, as in masochist or masochism, is a person who enjoys receiving pain. And thank you so much. I appreciate your comment. Where you have an SM or you hear people say SNM, it depends on your lingo in the community, right? So S&M is sadism and masochism, or sadist and masochist, or SM is a sadomasochist, where those words have been combined to mean and project a person, where in this regard you envision perhaps a person that is inflicting pain. So let's consider a heterosexual relationship where a sadomasochist, you may in your head envision a person that is taking a physical whip and whipping a woman, a male who is whipping a woman. So in this reference, and it's not intended to be exclusive or specific to any particular person, but if you are a heterosexual male and you are in a relationship with a heterosexual female and you are the male that is whipping the female, the male is the dominant and the woman is the submissive, and the practice they are going through is of the nature of being a sadomasochist. So you may hear various terms, and it again depends on your level of comfort and your level of experience in this particular realm of sexuality. So keep in mind that BDSM is a little four-letter word. It's not even a word, but a four-letter term. And I say word because I can think of a lot of four-letter words that a lot of us could say that express how we feel. But BDSM is really an umbrella term for a number of different forms of expressions and interpersonal relationships. And some people, not all of us of course, but a lot of people are scared of what they don't know. And so this is why we introduce these types of conversations, to expose people to what it is that we perhaps may be curious about but don't necessarily know how to address. So there are different types of roles when it comes to BDSM. So what we can talk about is that if you are a top or a dominant, or dom is a partner who is the person that is performing the acts of control. They control the activities in the exchange. And I was hesitant because I was about to say sexual exchange, but it's not, again, not necessarily sexual exchange, but in that power dynamic, in that exchange. So the dom is the person that is on top. You also have a bottom who is considered the submissive, and the submissive is somebody who is the receiver of all of what's going on, all of what the dominant is giving them. And you also have the opportunity to be a switch, which means that you can interchangeably go from being a top or a bottom. Now, I've said it before, in BDSM, it's not necessarily about sex. It is more about a power exchange. It's more about being able to either gain or release control of a particular situation. So imagine that one person harnesses that power and that control over another person. That is going to be your top or your dominant in this position. What we have to understand is that if you take a situation where, let's say it's non-sexual, right? And you have a person that has been given a command to run an errand or wash somebody's clothes or cook them some food or massage their feet. All of those are non-sexual things by nature, but because it was a directive by a dominant, it is done because the submissive wants to please their dom. It turns them on. It allows them to release themselves to another person. So BDSM is not just about a physical control. It is also about a mental control. And so as a certified sex coach, I enjoy my homework assignments, right? Like, I enjoy having to go do research about sex and sexuality and different things that impact people's lives. And as I was going through my certification, I had to watch a movie, and it was called it's called Secretary. And so Secretary is the precursor to 50 Shades of Grey. Now, what I enjoyed about this movie, because I really didn't know what to expect, but what I enjoyed most about this movie was, one, it came out in 2002. And in 2002, it, again, is a precursor to 50 Shades of Grey. So it didn't necessarily have the popularity that 50 Shades of Grey did. But what we see is that, especially in recent times, that this is nothing new. The movie I liked, and I will say that I'm not going to spoil it for you. I've done that in other occasions, and I don't intend to, but I want you to see the value in what I see in it. So when you're looking at the movie and you're watching it, which I encourage you to do, you'll see that it is BDSM is a culture of its own, really. The ending of this movie was really what took it away from me, and I'll talk about it more when we talk about the other more specific aspects of BDSM. But the roles that happen and the controls and the relationships that form from BDSM relationships is something that is very, very dynamic, and we should be cognizant of those and how it is that they impact us. So there are even terms, BDSM is very simple, but it's also very complicated. There are terms that you use within the confines of that construct, where specific periods of time are considered different things. It can be referred to as play or as a scene or as a session. BDSM is more than what you think. It's not just, and I know a lot of people think that it's about pain, but it's not just about pain. It can be about inflicting humiliation. It can be about, restraining somebody or being a complement of what we consider pain into pleasure. It's about forced compliancy in a way. So I will say, if I haven't said it yet, that consent is a really, really big thing when it comes to BDSM. It's something that if you're interested in, you should really be taught to do it the right way. There are those people that are in the community, that are in the lifestyle, that are more than willing to show you and teach you how to do things correctly. Now, again, this is just a general overview. This is not intended to be a deep dive into BDSM or to convert you into BDSM if that's not something that you're into. But if you have an inclination, just know that there are resources available to you. We want to start the general conversation so that BDSM, just like with 50 Shades of Grey or The Secretary, is not something that is so out there that we can't fathom that it's something that we would do, or something that we could talk about, or something that we could consider that even other people enjoy. And just keep in mind that there are different forms of BDSMs, and we'll talk about those. Hopefully this is the live video, and hopefully you'll go to YouTube to visit the repost and visit the follow-up videos that we will do. But the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this conversation is that BDSM, the biggest and most critical component, is about informed consent. And informed consent is, I want to specify that it's different than just consent. It's not just saying yes. It's about saying yes and being fully aware of what you're about to get yourself into. Because you can say, yes, I want to have sex with somebody, but you might not want to say, yes, I want to have sex with you, and I also want to be beat with a whip and tied up to a bedpost, or suspended from the air, or flogged with a cat of nine tails, or put in a cage. You never know what it is that could happen. But the beauty of BDSM is that most people that do it correctly, they talk about it first. Consent is what distinguishes the sexual acts that happen from sexual assault or domestic violence. You have to have that consent. Otherwise, it is not what it is that it's intended to be. There are various terms when it comes to how you acknowledge, how you have these interactions with people. For one, there is the SSC, which stands for safe, sane, and consensual. What it means really is that everybody that's involved is safe, sufficiently safe, they are of sane mind, and they are participating of their own will. That consent is something that is needed regardless of what it is that you do. Consent in all situations is needed, but especially in BDSM. There are ways that you can be hurt, where pain can be inflicted, and you may or may not have intended it. So you have to be very, very careful of how it is that you communicate when these things happen. Communication is a very big thing when you're talking about BDSM in those communities. There are some advocates who believe that you have to go a little bit further than just being sane and being safe and having that consent. There is an aspect of where, so let me backtrack. When you're in these BDSM environments, if you're engaging in these activities, especially if they're sexual activities, even if not, you have to create what is a safe word. So a safe word is that, imagine an airplane, you have that ejection chute, and it's like you're getting out real fast because it's no longer safe for you to be in that environment. That is what your safe word is intended to do. Because I'm not sure if you've heard this adage or not, but no means yes and stop means harder. You know, it's like when you're in that moment and you hear, oh, no, don't stop, or don't stop, or yes, hard. Those no, don't stop. Like you could hear it. No, don't. I don't want you to do this. Stop. Or you can hear it as, no, don't stop. I want you to continue. So that's what the safe word is for. The safe word is to take all of the ambiguity out of the situation. If you establish that and you've had that conversation with your partner beforehand, you know that if I say pineapples, pineapples means stop what you're doing. I don't want to do this anymore. That is the importance of the safe word. Okay? So I want you to just keep in mind that there are these things that need to be in place if you're going to engage in these types of activities. So if you feel like whatever is happening is no longer engaging to you, make sure that you are using your safe word. So BDSM is not in the shadows anymore, and we have, again, popular movies like 50 Shades of Grey, Secretary, to kind of help with that. But it also depends on where you are in your philosophy around BDSM. So there are those that feel that those movies help to highlight and to project BDSM into the mainstream so that it's not so stigmatized, it's not so negative, right? And that to me is a great thing. But there's also the philosophy that it's not an accurate projection of who people are and what relationships are like in a BDSM environment. So I want to remind you that, again, BDSM is really about a power exchange, and that it is not necessarily sexual, although it is sexual at times. It's about pain, and it's about pleasure. And pain and pleasure are, those receptors come from the same parts of our brain. So if you don't believe me, please go and research it for yourself. There is nothing wrong with you if you like it a little rough, or if you like to relinquish control, or if you like to command control, or if you enjoy dressing up in leather or being whipped, or if you like wearing a dog collar and paraded around on a leash. The connections that people build and the ties that they join together as part of that BDSM relationship are insurmountable for a lot of people. For many people, it is a lifestyle. It's not just something that they do out of hobby. It is a lifestyle. If there is even something that you want to do or have curiosities, I've done my share. If there are things that you want to do or you have your curiosities about, I would suggest that you reach out, especially if you have a local community of people that are in the lifestyle, that they have introductory courses of people that will teach you the right way. But again, don't just focus on one resource. Focus on different resources. Do your research. If this is something that you are truly curious about and you are in a relationship, make sure that you have that conversation with your partner. Be able to go on YouTube, look at some perhaps introductory videos. I will say that, and I'll say it later, that pornography is, although I'm a fan as a form of entertainment, it's not necessarily something that you should use as an educational base, because it does not give you the full sense of what it means to be in the lifestyle. So what I ask again is that you go out and you do your own research. Just like this is a community, KNKY, where we can talk about sex, we can talk about sex as adults, where it's a conversation. BDSM is a conversation about a sexual topic, and I suggest you go out and do your research. Have your conversations. Talk to your partner if it's something that you're interested in. Do what you're supposed to do. I appreciate every one of you who took the time to join live. If you missed it live and you're watching it as a repost on YouTube, I appreciate you as well. Comment, post, share, do whatever it is that you need to do to help me spread the word. Everything that I do on all social media is at DOYOUKNKY. And you want to come talk about it? Okay. Everything I do is at DOYOUKNKY. You can always send me a direct message. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about. And again, I'm a certified sex coach. I'm here to help. And hopefully you found some of this information useful to you. And I will see you again next week. Wednesdays, 10 o'clock, live. Appreciate you. Appreciate you too.